Welcome back to NYSE Live. Moments ago, you saw First Lady Melania Trump ring the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange to celebrate the upcoming release of her documentary called Melania and set to debut in theaters on Friday. Joining me now with more, Seth Schackner, Managing Director of Strat Americas. Seth, it's great to have you on the show this morning, joining us from Los Angeles. This is a win for Amazon and Amazon MGM Studios. How so?
Great to be here, Kristen. Good morning. Yeah, this is, it's extremely unusual for a documentary picture to get this type of, marketing campaign, even a theatrical release. And I think what's happening here actually is that, Amazon is using it, probably smartly as a marketing vehicle for Prime, for, its Prime Video service, and getting it attention, kind of tying it in a big public way and getting a lot of earned media around it. So, I don't tend to look at it like a traditional movie release, if you will, although it's getting thousands of theaters here in the U.S. and even around the world as well. So that is what I tend to see it as. It's kind of an extraordinary development in terms of how they're treating it. And, for sure, there's some strategic marketing and government relations on their part as well, which I don't think in the scheme of things is that unusual for all the tech titans.
What does this reveal about Amazon's strategy when it comes to the relationship between theaters and its Prime Video streaming service, as you referenced earlier?
Kristen, Amazon, like some of the other tech titans like Apple, isn't really a standalone entertainment company, kind of obviously. And so entertainment's a piece of the ecosystem. And, broadly speaking, I think all of them want to show that they're real service providers, that Amazon's got a vital service with Prime for entertainment, as well as Apple and all these others. And I think theaters have always been one of the bigger, more fundamental parts of the entertainment ecosystem out here in Hollywood. And so it's a strategic use of theaters for sure. Netflix does it as well. It's typically done in a more limited way, again, to kind of promote subscriber retention and growth around the Prime Video service. So I don't think it's some massive return to theatrical releasing, but in the way, Netflix has tested or used it for things, big events like K-pop Demon Hunters, I think it's kind of similar to what you're seeing here.
How do you measure the real return of this documentary? Seth, measured in box office, Prime engagement, PR, and even relationship building?
I think it's probably the last three, Kristen. I don't think this is going to be something that's burning up the box office personally. And I think we've seen that from some of the ticket sales in the UK so far, the pre-sales. So, yeah, I definitely think it's just about strategic relationships. And I think, Spotify's got a record of doing this. So does Netflix in terms of big celebrity deals, perhaps on the other side of the political landscape with the Obamas or the Royals as well. And I think it's about kind of spiffing that offering they're bringing out to the market. I mean, I do think, I am a fan of docus, and I think it's great to see that and independent pictures being released in theaters. And so that's a very positive thing. There's so much content sitting in these streaming services. By all means, it's great if theaters can be a part of the mix.
Seth, you're joining us here in January of 2026. What's your outlook for streaming this year and how it's matured over the course of the past few years?
It's definitely a really different game than when we first started talking about, the streaming wars, 3 or 4 years ago, Christian. I mean, it's all about engagement and profitability and cost management now. I think, a lot of the town now, whether it's because of a big merger we have out here or not, is actually focused on social media and YouTube as being probably the biggest thing in the landscape that's a competitive factor right now. So that's a really big piece of it. And I think that competition is only going to get fiercer. I think YouTube's only going to get bigger and more of a competitor. But, in the last year, Amazon has brought advertising into the fore, and that's a very real part of the business right now. So we're all watching that. I think that'll continue to grow in a big way. But, the other piece of it, we're really looking closely at how much, people are spending or these enterprises are spending on new productions. There's been some concern around what Netflix is doing, and you've seen some of that come out in the Warner Brothers merger proposal as well, in terms of how much they're spending on originals or picking up other pictures from other companies. So costs are a big part of it, and engaging those audiences are a big part. We're seeing even with Netflix that it's a challenge for them as they get bigger and broader and have everything from football to events to podcasts and to keep the engagement going. So it's a very different game now terms of actually how the business, is running and really looking at the fundamentals of it. But I think, it's a good thing. And I'm still quite positive about it. And I'm hopeful that we don't lose studios while we're sitting here watching all that stuff as well.
Yeah. I do want to ask you about the Super Bowl, Seth. It's less than 2 weeks away. Super Bowl 60 going to stream on NBC's Peacock. What does this mean for media?
Firstly, we're a little bit bummed about our Rams out here, but we're going to deal with that. We'll live with that. But look, it's still the Super Bowl is still the very biggest stage in the U.S. and the world, actually, for audiences basically to get together, and it's a massive opportunity for NBC. And I think just like some of the earlier parts of this discussion, they're probably looking at how they can bundle things. They've got the Olympics, the Winter Olympics coming to support Peacock, which is one of the biggest streamers and needs some help there. So I think it's a kind of a massive bundling opportunity for them. They've got an incredibly robust ad sales force that can sell across all these different channels. And, they're doing this whole 4K all day marketing thing around it to promote it. So it's a really great, big integrated marketing opportunity. And, I'm pretty sure that that it's not going to disappoint anyone, no matter what happens to the game. We've got a great musical event with Bad Bunny and Green Day playing, and it's always a great opportunity for marketers.
We're looking forward to that indeed. Seth Schachner, Managing Director of Strat Americas. Seth, always a pleasure. Thanks again for joining.
Great to be here.